friends, this is Aromie here. Welcome back to our life Baxter DLC. We're here, confirming with our friends we're dating again. Co's distinctive wavy brow stayed pinched. To say he doubted that would be an ocean-sized understatement. He did manage to smile for you, not the sunshiny beam of joy you love to see. It was his soft, I'm here for you look. Cove, look away. Cove, don't look at me. Actually, I'll look away. Don't be terrible, okay? I want Michiko to be happy.
I appreciate the understanding.
Of course. I appreciate your openness to the idea. Well, that was still a work in progress, clearly. You weren't worried. Ko had struggled to talk to Baxter even before he vanished for half a decade. You could give him time to get used to it. Both those men were going to be a big part of your life going forward, and at least Ko was willing to be civil. Your friends accepted your judgment and your new boyfriend, and that was something to celebrate. Thanks, everyone. It was a good time to mention the next little piece of news, too. Baxter pulled on the cuff of his shirt and peeked at you for confirmation. He was thinking the same thing, and then Baxter made the announcement.
Well...
I invited Michiko to be a guest at my apartment since Jude and Scott have left on their honeymoon. That way she doesn't have to be there alone during the rest of their stay in the area. Also, because I would simply enjoy having her company.
Sorry.
Already with that? Terry cracked a smile and gave Miranda a nudging elbow as she needed to get a look at this, then he whistled. I don't know how he does it, but the man has done it. He whistled louder this time. Miranda slapped a hand across her mouth. She'd spun away from the group. It was still obvious by the way her shoulders were shaking that she was laughing. But really, how did you do it?
To be honest...
I'm not quite sure how either, though I imagine it has more to do with Michiko's generosity and kindness than any quality I possess. Terry and Miranda exchanged a silent grin with one another and then shared it with you. Somehow, you managed to defy the odds. It was a marvel to everyone standing there that everything had worked out. Working as a team, those left in the venue carried piles of boxes and bags into the elevator and down to Terry's van. It took a few trips, a couple of high fives, one dive for the elevator doors, and many silly comments, and it was done. Then came the final puzzle, fitting it all in the vehicle. After some creative arrangement work inside the trunk, what remained of the wedding had been safely packed away. Together with Terry and Cove, you squished the trunk door shut and pressed. When you heard it click into position, the three of you slumped forward and sighed wearily. Terry spun on his heel and wiped his forehead with another of his exaggerated displays of exhaustion. Another successful party in the bag. Terry moved to Miranda's side and hooked his arm around her shoulders. He playfully, goddamn, I can't fucking read. He playfully pulled her in close. We're professionals at this point. Miranda rolled her eyes, but nothing could derail her unmistakable delight in her boyfriend's proclamation. She lightly patted his hand on her shoulder. Terry, Baxter is a professional, did you forget? No, that only proves my point. We're doing the same work. Miranda giggled and simply accepted Terry's argument. She shook her head as she calmed down.
Thank you.
None of this would have been possible without any of you. We did a great thing for my family. Thank you so much. Miranda sniffled and blinked, trying to keep the tears away. I think the wedding was great. You did a really good job. Terry nodded solemnly and gently rubbed the side of Miranda's arm. Baxter watched over the group, smiling earnestly. Despite all the talk about being professionals, it was the least business-like Baxter had acted around them in 5 years.
You're good.
Likewise, your efforts were impressive. Thanks, everyone. Go team. Yes, thanks to me, all the hard work I did, you tease. Yeah, it's okay. Thanks, everyone. Go team. Yeah, hell yeah. Team morale, you know? Wiping your palms on the side of your fine attire, it was hard to believe the wedding was truly done. It kind of felt like you won a championship. You were in need of a shower and a big block of uninterrupted sleep, but you also felt a huge surge of pride for the hard work that paid off. We actually made it. Terry threw a fist into the air with his cheer, and Miranda joined him in the next one. Baxter clapped gracefully.
Fun.
Party planning committee reunion. On that note, the wedding was officially done. There was no reason for any of you to return to the empty event room, and tomorrow strangely lacked any important appointments. There wasn't a single reason remaining for you to set foot in Baxter's office anytime soon. It was entirely at an end. The only traces of what originally brought the five of you back together had been unceremoniously stuffed into the van. It was unintentional, but you stood there in a moment of silence until Baxter used that open to clear his throat. Since we're gathered here and there's no longer a wedding to fuss over planning anymore, I must use this opportunity to properly apologize to the rest of you. Baxter had threaded his fingers through his hair and faced them uncertainly staring back at him. To not beat around the bush, I treated your friendship and the time we spent together inconsiderately. I decided things for you and about you without letting you have a say in it.
I'm sorry.
I was wrong to do that. It was unfair, and I'm sorry. His sincerity left the three unable to react. At first anyway, gradually the words sunk in and your friend's attention flickered between you and him. The corners of Terry's mouth tugged into a satisfied smile. He proudly raised his chin and bumped his fist into Baxter's shoulder.
Finally!
I always knew you had it in you. Better late than never, B-Man. Miranda bashfully wrapped a straight curl around her finger and hummed in agreement.
Yep.
There's no reason why we need to forgive you anymore. Exactly, so don't worry. It's all water under the bridge now. Sure, forget it. We can start over. Finally, Baxter's lips parted and he breathed a deep sigh of relief. The weight of his worries visibly lifted free. How long was he wanting to do that? Years, you imagined, anxiously picturing the possible directions that the conversation could have
I
gone.
appreciate the understanding.
Yep, we're understanding people, alrighty, so. Terry clapped and then pointed at the van. Miranda and Cove nodded, understanding what that cue meant. Some of us are still gonna have to unpack this mess. We gotta get out of here, right, Randy? Uh-huh, sorry. No, please go on. Short goodbyes were traded, then Terry, Miranda, and Cove tiredly slid into the van. Somehow, Mr. Holden had convinced Cove to stay in his old bedroom, despite it being turned into a makeshift storage container, and the others were going to drop him off on their way. He encouraged him to do it, even though he would have been happy to join you in the Adams house. But I'm not going to be there, so. Cove rolled down his window and propped himself on his elbow. He waved you closer. By the way, it's going to be a busy day for me tomorrow. Me and my dad, you know? Terry leaned back in his seat and tried to spot you through the back window. When he couldn't see past Cove's body, he opted to yell his comment. Ray and I are working. If things go well, you're going to have time to yourself after all this. You held out an okay sign. With that information, you could better plan ahead for tomorrow. After that, sleeper promises to see each other soon were shared, and then at long last, everyone went on their way for the night. There was one final pit stop left before you could return to Baxter's place in the city and rest, Jude and Scott's house. The suburbs were calling you to come and collect your clothes. Baxter used a moment alone to check if you were truly alright with your friends being aware of the relationship. You reassured him, but asked not to spring it on anyone else. No, everyone and anyone could know. Come on now. During the drive, you sent them a text to let them know your plans had changed. The newlyweds responded quickly, and they were thrilled to hear that you would have company while you were still in the area. While they never outright said it, you got the impression over the last few days that they had been feeling guilty. Honeymoon or not, leaving a house guest behind just didn't sit right with either of them. Their thoughtfulness and concern were appreciated, but now that the lot of you could breathe easy. Before putting your phone away, you sent off the last text, wishing them well and safe travels on their honeymoon. They replied instantly and thanked you for helping to give them one of the best days of their lives. When you reached the house, Baxter parked the car and followed you out. In seconds, you unlocked the front door with the handy spare key you'd been gifted and let him inside. It struck an odd note observing how silent the house was without Jude or Scott to fill the space. You were newly relieved to not be there by yourself. Though it kind of sucked to have packed so soon after cleaning the vent room, there was a growing anticipation in your gut that spurred you on. There was no way of knowing what to expect from temporarily moving yourself in with Baxter, but you were optimistic. Peeking past your shoulder, you spotted Baxter in the doorway. He was graciously waiting on standby, and once you were ready, he stepped in and helped carry your bags to his car. Not once did he utter a single complaint, but fortunately you also hadn't brought nearly as much as an entire wedding's worth of things. Between the two of you, it didn't take as long as it took to pack Terry's van, and then you're ready to go. Again. But you did one more sweep of the house to make sure everything was in check, nothing was left on, and you locked the door. Then the two of you were on your way once more. From there, Baxter brought you to his apartment for a second time and pushed your door open. He flipped the nearby light switch on, and together you went inside. Bro, I don't think I will ever get tired of this fucking view. Amazingly, you felt less nervous being there, Amazingly, you felt less nervous being there than you did before. Knowing how much Baxter wanted you there made a world of a difference. Sighing drowsily, your body knew there was nothing left to worry about. You could finally rest. Baxter seemed equally ready to collapse at the end of a long chain of stressful challenges.
Now?
Well, now, he exhaled deeply, and despite his weary demeanor, Baxter offered you an amiable smile. Are you ready to get settled in? We can bring the bags into your room. Then you'd be free to get changed into something more comfortable or to pass out, anything you wish. For a moment, you found yourself caught on his choice of words, declaring the guest room as plainly yours. It was wonderful, but also almost far-fetched to believe that you held a concrete place within Baxter's world. Nodding gladly, you lifted what you could carry and braced yourself to move things to their final destination for tonight. After the busy day you had, you were more than ready to put something infinitely more comfortable. Wonderful. Baxter rubbed the side of his neck and yawned. He took a pause to get his sore body moving again, and at some point his thoughts wandered off elsewhere. Ah yes, He glanced roughly in the direction of his bedroom and sighed. Crossing your arms, you tilted your head curiously. What's wrong? I was recalling the state of my own room, and I'm fairly certain it's a mess thanks to the debacle this morning, so nothing important. I'm not eager to tackle that tonight. It's a problem I'll deal with at a later date. I'm good at that, aren't I? His usual self-derisive jabbing had all the bite taken out of it. He smirked with honest amusement. It was kind of funny, which was wild. Then Baxter brushed that thought off and returned his attention to the present task. He helped you carry your bags. I'll come back to the living room area once I'm finished getting out of this uniform. Feel free to change and decompress at your own leisure. You answered with a content but sleepy hum, and followed Baxter to the guest room. Once your bags were safely inside, he cleared his throat. Please excuse me for now. After that, he swiftly exited the room. For the first time in a long while, watching him go didn't strike an odd chord. The two of you would talk later, and you knew that for a fact. The apartment wasn't that big, so there wasn't a chance that you could miss each other. In the meantime, you began unpacking and arranging your things in this new space. There was no rush, but the small changes were comforting. Later, when you were showered and dressed much more comfortably in your sleepwear, you found yourself wandering into the living room. Oh, what is he wearing? It looks cute. There you spotted Baxter leaning over the counter in the kitchen. You had a sudden realization. Despite spending the previous night in the same place, you never had caught a glimpse of what Baxter wore to bed. All you saw was the sight of him in his leafy underwear. Baxter remained obscured behind the furniture and perused something on his phone with a creased brow. You wonder if there was some wrap-up still needed for the contractors that worked on the wedding. Before you could ask, Baxter joyfully abandoned his phone on the counter because of your arrival. He straightened his back to his full height. He looks so cute. It's black and white too. Aww. He's so cute. And you got the best view of what he was wearing. White silk jammies with a shiny black trim. On his feet, a pair of zebra-striped fuzzy slippers. Michiko, hello again. He unconsciously smoothed the front of his shirt, but froze the second he touched the silky material. The corner of his mouth quirked. I'm pleased to see you're seeming relaxed after the days we had. I am aware of how this looks with the limited color scheme of my attire. I kindly ask you not to laugh. I won't. The work clothes are pushing it, but there's no coincidence here. What? I don't know what you're talking about. You laughed. Some things really do stay the same. Leaning your hips against the side of the counter, you smirked playfully. Baxter was monochrome from his head to his feet. If he wanted to pretend he had outgrown that particular taste, that was fine, but the truth was a blinking white sign staring you in the face. Black and white really are your colors. Baxter covered his mouth and momentarily tried to turn away. He instantly failed to hide his own amusement. He's so cute when he snorts, bro! Oh fine, I confess. I haven't outgrown the aesthetic as much as I claim. Black and white remains my preferred color scheme. And all my pajamas are these colors, so you were bound to put all the puzzle pieces together. Your cheeks began to ache from a splitting grin. Baxter crossed his arms, but his expression remained fond. I only wish to indulge my habits in a private manner. I understand. Baxter's mouth opened, but his phone buzzed before he could speak. Work? It shouldn't be. Baxter reached over the counter and checked. His playfulness quickly vanished and his smile strained. Regrettably, no, not work. This should be significantly more painful. His voice fell to a hushed whisper, then he reached for the phone. Hello, Xavier. He muttered the name like his own personal arch-nemesis. You recognized it immediately. Xavier was the baker and Baxter's work acquaintance who considered him a friend regardless. That put the reason for the night call and Baxter's words into a much better context. Baxter lightly tapped the screen and set the phone on speaker.
Hi.
Sorry to call so late. I wanted to check in on how the wedding went and on you. Now that it's done, are you holding up alright? Baxter's gaze landed on you. The day you met Xavier, Baxter was still trying to push you away as quickly and professionally as he could. It was incredible how everything had changed.
How wonderful.
That's so considerate. Yes, I would say I'm doing quite well. Wow, you're such a sweetheart. I feel like I would love Xavier. So Xavier, good to hear from you. Thank you. Xavier's mind quickly caught up to their mouth, and their confusion caused Baxter to lean away from the phone. He tried not very hard to muffle his laughter. I'm sorry, but who is the? Xavier cut themselves off mid-sentence. Baxter offered zero help explaining the situation. He was far too amused by them being the one caught off guard. Michiko, right? That's who you are. That's me. Yes, I thought so. I certainly thought so. Hi, Michiko. The tone of Xavier's voice shifted smugly. You watched a small crease form in Baxter's brow. So, Michiko's still in your presence, Baxter. Yes, she is. Even though the wedding is finished. Yes. Well, Xavier huffed confidently as if their designs had all gone to plan, despite them not having any part of
That's
it.
incredible.
That's lovely. I'm truly happy to hear that,
Of
Baxter.
course.
I'm sure you are. I also invited Michiko to stay at my apartment for the remainder of her trip.
She's rooming at your apartment?
Didn't you swear up and down that you were, I quote, never going to associate with her after the wedding? Baxter met your eye for a split second and found himself staring at the ceiling. He tapped at the counter, smiling wryly. Yes, in both matters. But listen, he's clearly a changed man. He's clearly a changed man with a changed attitude. This is where we're going to stop for today's episode. I thought we were wrapping it up pretty early, but I guess not. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.